Hello and welcome to the Authority Club. My name is Sue Richardson and I'm the publisher of the Authority Guides, little books of business brilliance for the business owner and business professional. And today I'd like to welcome to the Authority Club Dr. Sue Mitchell, who is the author of one of our latest Authority Guides, the Authority Guide to Engaging Your People. Welcome, Sue. Lovely to see you, Sue. And thank you so much for joining us at the Authority Club to have a chat about you and what you do and your lovely new book, your new Authority Guide to Engaging Your People. So you're up in Bonnie, Scotland.
I certainly am, yes. And thank you, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to this. And it's not such a bonny Scotland. It's quite strong wind and not very sunny today, but it is otherwise definitely bonny Scotland.
Lovely. Well, as I say, warm welcome to you and thank you for being with us. So tell us a bit, Sue, about what it is that you do. I mean, you know, obviously engaging your people is a major piece of your work, but tell us a bit about you and your work.
And my work. So I work with people. I suppose, in essence, what drives me is helping people change their own world for the better in some way, whether it's their own personal world, whether it's their work world. But so many people are finding themselves either stuck or not particularly happy, or they've got aspirations and want to know how they can achieve them. So quite a wide range. And I work through one-to-one coaching. I work through doing seminars, webinars, workshops. I have a ILM certified development program, which is called Leadership, Engagement and Wellbeing. And it's tying all those things in together. So the better you lead both yourself and your people, then the more you're likely to engage people, but also create a real sense of well-being, a healthy workplace or a healthy home, if you like, as well. And for me, that's really important. It's that holistic aspect to it. And if we really think about raising well-being and engagement, that also raises the whole productivity and performance for an organisation. So it's not just a nice to have, actually it can be core, fundamental to being a thriving organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And I mean, when we talk about engaging your people, I mean that's quite a big area, isn't it? I mean, what do you mean by it, and why is it so important? I mean, you talked a bit about well-being, but tell us a bit more about why we all need to be thinking about this.
Why we should think about it. Well, first of all, to answer the question about what is engagement, so in an essence, I suppose you see it when people love their work. I like to also compare it to, so over the years I've worked quite a lot with volunteers, and you see that you know, people will, as a volunteer, they'll invest a huge amount of their personal time and energy and their money, even, and other resources into making things happen for that voluntary organisation. And that's a really good example of engagement. They're really committed. They have that emotional commitment. They believe in what they're doing, and they'll do what they can and invest the time and energy and think about how can they make things happen in a really positive way. So that's sort of an example of what engagement can look like. And it's something about where you have that personal motivation, you feel a personal drive from inside that you want to make it happen, and you get a sense of fulfillment out of what you're doing, and perhaps that taps into having some sense of purpose and a meaning in the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's in essence what engagement is. It's that emotional commitment, and you can just imagine the difference that makes if you bring that same kind of emotional commitment into your work. You know, so imagine people woke up on a Monday morning and they were like, leaping out of bed, raring to go to work. It's when you get people inspired by the work in that way that they want to bring all that they can into it, in a positive way that still maintains a work-life balance, and that's where, you know, the well-being side of it comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so why it's so important, that but I briefly mentioned some of it before. There's been a lot of studies. Some of the most well-known ones are by Gallup. They do employee surveys and organizational surveys, and they've done it for very, very many years, and are consistently finding that the results. So in organizations with high engagement tend to have up to 4 times higher profitability than organizations on the lower quartile of engagement. Wow. They have higher staff retention. It's phenomenal, actually. Yeah. And you think this is just about getting people motivated and committed in their work and thinking about how do they work well together. Yes. You have higher staff retention because, you know, there's better relationships in work. People are happier to stay there. You have better customer satisfaction because if the staff are happy and interacting well with each other, they also tend to interact well with customers. And they feel a sense of pride in working with their organisation, and then that rubs off with the customers as well. And the customers sense that the staff are proud of the organisation. They believe in it. They believe in its future. And so customers are going, well, you know, there's something with this organisation, and it makes it easier for customers to actually work with the organisation. So you end up with better customer satisfaction. You have higher productivity, higher performance. In fact, just about all the KPIs, the hard KPIs that people tend to measure for performance in organisations, are all improved when you work at raising engagement. Yeah. And then on the softer side, you know, if there's raised well-being, people are happier. There's also some research has shown that when people are feeling happier and feeling good about themselves, their lifespan can be extended by up to 10 years. Wow. So, wow, I know, wow. So what's not to like about it? It's good on a personal thing. It's good for individuals. And if your organisation is thinking in this way, it's a win-win for people and the organisation. And both are end up thriving. It makes it sustainable, much more sustainable for the long term.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I mean, you're talking about, I realise, you know, we all have, as customers, I guess we all have that kind of experience, don't we, of going into either, I don't know, a shop or or eating in a restaurant where we meet a person who makes our experience extra special because they are loving what they do, and they're part of the organisation. They're there representing their organisation, and they're really proud of it, and they love their job, and they want to, you know, and that we all know what a massive difference that can make when you just walk into that shop and you come across, you know, a bored person looking at their phone, and the difference between that and a person who's lively and engaged and wants to be there and wants to help you as a customer because they know the value of what they're bringing. That's huge, isn't it? It's like actually everybody in an organisation where it's working seems to kind of share a sense of the purpose and the vision of that organisation. Would you say that's kind of part of the bedrock, if you like, the kind of the most important place to start, almost?
Definitely.
Do you think? Yeah.
Definitely. And you've really captured it well there. People have a sense, you know, where is this organisation going? This organisation has a future. It has something I believe in. And that having that sense of purpose and that meaning, you know, my work means something. It means something to me, but I know that it means something in the bigger picture of what this organisation is about. And that knowing how your own role, what you're doing in your role, you know, whether it's customer facing or not, is actually contributing to the organisation succeeding as a whole.
Yes.
That essence of tapping into a sense of meaning. And in fact, there was a survey done, I think it was it EY or McKinsey? Oh, I should have forgotten. One of those two did a survey that actually showed that meaning and purpose, I think it was the EY survey, meaning and purpose is the biggest contributor or biggest factor for engagement at the moment in the workplace. They did that in 2015. So it is huge, and people have shown over many years that you know, there are many motivators that people have, and tapping into your own personal motivators is really critical. But that sense of meaning and purpose comes out top in more recent surveys about what engages people in work. And there's actually quite a lot of really nice literature on motivation. And if people want to have a look at something a bit more fun, Dan Pink has got a video on YouTube called Drive. That's great for getting a real sense of, motivation isn't as intuitive as you think, and it's these intrinsic, these internal motivators that is really important to think about. How do you recognize what different people have different motivators, although luckily there's only about 9 or so core motivators that will in some shape or other form most people's core motivators. So being able to think about how what you're doing will tap into those is really important for thinking about, so how do you get people engaged? And the more that they're internally motivated, the better. Whereas, because that kind of lights their inner fire, then they really want to do something from inside. Whereas something like salary is important. You need some money. But up to a point, it's great. And then beyond that, it's like, well, I've got enough, and it's not going to drive me to go the extra mile, perhaps, that some other motivation that's a bit more internal might. So that has a great personal meaning and purpose.
And on the same note, I guess it's also important to make sure that everybody understands the values of a company and an organisation too. It's all part of the same thing, I guess. But values are another important thing, because I'm assuming that we don't all share the same values, do we, actually? And there has to be a fit. We kind of gaily go through life having difficulties in our relationships, probably, for all sorts of reasons. But why would we not see, we have to kind of adjust our sense of each other's values. But when we're actually going to work, do we share the values of the people that we're working for or with or alongside? That's an important one, isn't it?
It is important, and it's become much more recognised these days. We do see big corporates and they state what their values are.
Yes.
And the caveat there is, well, if you're going to state your values, you do want to live by them.
Yes.
So you need to actually translate. So if these are going to be our organisational values, what does that look like every day? How do we live that value every day? How does it translate into the kind of behaviours that we expect to see? And you're right, it is important that if you're recruiting people, that they're a good fit for your organisation, so that they share at least some of those core values at a personal level, and there isn't going to be too much conflict. And in fact, one of the reasons why people feel that they're not fitting in an organisation is when you're being asked to do something that deeply conflicts some of your most strongly held values. And in which case, actually it's better for you as an individual not to work in that organisation. And that works both ways, both for the organisation and the individual person. But I think there are sufficient. Most people, you will have some difference in your truly core values, but there'll also be a secondary layer of value. So the more that you can look for, where can I find alignment, even if it's not my deepest held core value? Can I see that's a value that I would agree with? So even if it's not my most core held one, and can I find a way to work with it so that I can find some alignment? And the more alignment that you find, both with your values, and very often your core values, you can chunk them up into the core motivators. So for example, one of the core motivators is belonging. So where you have some core values around family, for example, you can put that into this motivator around belonging, and then think about, well, if belonging is really important, how do we create a sense of belonging in the workplace? So how do we work around values that are around how we work together as a team? How do we show that respect, that we belong as a team and we work together and all pull in the same direction?
Fantastic. So how does there's a big kind of area that I know in a way also lies at the root of a lot of the work that you do, and at the root of this book and plenty of the of other pieces of your work, which is mindset. I'd really love to kind of hear your views on mindset and how you see it fitting in with everything, really.
Absolutely, and for me, mindset is absolutely core to. Well, it shapes so much about how do we even see the world around us? How do we interact with the world around us? And what do I mean by mindset? Well, mindset is, in effect, the filters we have. Our values, for example, they're a part of our mindset. Our sense of purpose, what gives us the sense of purpose, that is a part of our mindset as well. Our mindset is shaped. Our mindset is our attitude and perspective on life, or on the world around us. It's shaped as well by our beliefs, our past experiences, the culture that we've been brought up in, our entire upbringing. All of our past experience helps shape the way that we perceive and interact and filter out what's happening. So this is why when you can have two people in a room and they're talking about being at an event, or they both saw something or other happen, and they'll give two very different versions of what was going on, because for some people their mindset is much more focused on people, for example, and the interaction and the relationship they thought they observed between the people, or what was happening, and then another person might be much more focused on for example, actions, what was happening, or the place, and so they'll interpret things, and they'll interpret what was going on in a different way, or they'll even interpret the relationship in a different way, because from their perspective they're bringing in their own past experiences of when perhaps they saw something similar, and to that person it was relating to a very different event. So you can have one person saying, well, these people look like they were arguing, and another person saying, oh, well, they look like they were having a great time and they were just very passionate and animated about something. So your mindset really shapes how you perceive the world around you. And it's also very interesting because sort of coming a little bit more into the neuroscience side, which is another real interest of mine, we take in all the information about the world around us through our five senses, and our bodies are simply bombarded by all this information all of the time. And if our brain was to try and process all that information all the time, we'd be completely overloaded. It'd be a bit like your computer when it seizes up, when the RAM is overloaded and nothing happens anymore. Well, that would be what would happen if we didn't filter out information. So basically what happens is that all the sensory information comes in, and then we have some sort of filters that will filter out. So what's so important that it needs to get sent to our cognitive, the rational part of our brain, which is where we do all the processing. We give interpretation and meaning to things.
Yes. Yeah.
And then so what we call our mindset is, in effect, that shapes what those filters are, and so that shapes what's going to come through to our consciousness, in effect. So and one story is that's quite fun. A friend of mine was saying, she was looking for a Mini, and she quite liked these new ones that have the stripy roofs on them because they're quite unusual, and she'd only just seen them. Yeah. And then another friend went to the window and said, oh, well, come and have a look outside the window here. And there was a whole load of them all parked on the street. Yeah. But because she'd only just brought to her attention, she hadn't seen them before that. Now she's noticing them everywhere. That's a very classic example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So yes. lovely things that we can think about in the way that we we think about engaging with people, engaging our people with us.
Yes.
How can we do this, Sue? What are some of the ways that we might improve on this?
Improve on it.
Yeah. What would you suggest that we might look at in our? Well, I'm in a very small business and I have a very small team, but I have a bigger team of associates that I work with, and I know you say in your book it's not always about having rafts of staff that it's not just about it's for all of us, really, even the tiniest of business. How we engage with people makes a huge difference.
Very much so. And I think one thing that I haven't really talked enough about, or mentioned at all, in fact, which I should have done around mindset, is actually creating that positive attitude. And the link between having a positive attitude and a positive emotion. And I know most of the bigger organisations, certainly some years ago, they were very much of the mind that you need to leave emotion out of work. You come in, it's all very rational. But these days, the best organisations are realising that actually emotion is critical at work. Yeah. And what we need to do is evoke that positive emotion. When you create a positive experience for your staff, for yourself, for your team, for customers, that's crucially makes a big difference. So we need to think about, keep in mind how are people feeling, because the way you make people feel, and the more positive you make them feel, the more engaged they are and the more positive outcomes that you have. So there's many ways you can do this. And I'm very much, I'll pick up on your point actually about it. This is relevant. It's not just for big corporates. I hear a lot of business people say, "Oh, I've only got a small team. There's only 4 or 5 of us or 10 of us." But I would say actually leadership is even more critical when you've got a really small team, because you have few people and you really need everyone to pull together and make things work. So, and when you have a wider team of associates, so you're not even seeing them every day, so then you need to think about, how do I help them feel that sense of belonging and being part of this organisation and feel that pride, even if we're not meeting. We might do everything remotely. And so then you might have people in your team that you've never met before. Perhaps they're a remote worker and they live in another part of the country or another part of the world even. So there are ways that you can do that. As a quick thing, I think creating that sense of meaning, so creating a vision that people can buy into, and they can shape it a little bit and make it their own. That's one really key way. I would say one of the biggest skills that's often overlooked is listening. Many people find that you don't listen properly. It's actually quite an advanced skill. Most people will listen to someone else enough to think about, what do I need to say back? Yeah. How do I need to give an answer to this? I need to come up with something. Whereas if you truly listen simply to understand and to ask questions and invite them to explain a little bit deeper, that is a real skill that helps people feel much more valued and much better understood. And in fact, I'll give you a great example of this. One of my clients I was coaching, and she's a client I've never met. We just met by telephone. We had sessions by telephone. And she came to me because she'd been promoted to take over a team. She normally did project management, so she didn't do much with people. So she knew what she needed to be doing, but she was having a lot of difficulty as well, because the team hadn't been told that their leader would be changed. They were very much behind schedule. They had 2 weeks to meet a big deadline, which is why my client had been brought in. And she said, "Sue, do you know, it's impossible. I can't get anything done, because every meeting we've got all this information we need to give out, and everyone, they're just heckling and they're not listening." And after we sort of worked through this in our session, she realised, well, actually, they've got a lot of questions and we've got so much on the agenda, there really isn't that much time at the end of every session for everyone to ask the questions. So she created a whole section on the agenda simply called Over to You. And the next week she came back and she said, "You know, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe the difference this has made. Last week when we spoke, I had huge hostility. No one was listening. We couldn't get anything done. And I tried what we discussed and we made this session, and the whole, hour of the meeting was simply over to you, and they could ask their questions and we either gave them an answer or we undertook to find out because if we didn't have the answer immediately. And she said, I can't believe it. We've got everybody now is understanding why we've got to do this, that they're all giving a commitment to get the work finished and to try and meet this deadline on time.
Wow.
And I can't believe what has happened. And so we then spent, a later session, we actually unpicked it all, and we realised that actually the difference was she was actively listening. It was not just listening to take on board the questions, but actively saying, I am going to listen to you. I am giving you the space and showing that interest and valuing their opinion.
That's fantastic.
That was phenomenal. And that's the fastest I've seen it happen, that complete shift around from hostility to engagement. So listening is really, really key.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, Sue,
Thanks.
that's an amazing little nugget for us to take away. I know that you have a lot more of those lovely little nuggets in your book for people to enjoy. And we've barely had time to scratch the surface today, but we are beginning to get to the end of our time. So I guess really just to kind of to wind up, there's the book is The Authority Guide to Engaging Your People. We are going to offer, I believe, with your permission, your kind permission, an extract of the book for any Authority Club member who would like to have one. That will be available to download from our website, and the link will be on the slide at the end of the video, as always. Sue, I believe you also have an area on your website with some goodies for people, don't you?
Yes, I do. On the engagingyourpeople.com website, if people are interested, you can sign up to the resources page. You just need to put in your email, and then you'll be sent the username and password to log into the resources page. And then there's extra resources for each of the chapters. To give you a number of tools, things you can print out, things you can actually physically use, and practical tools to work with, or some of the other tools and tips that are in the book itself.
Fantastic. Well, that's absolutely
Pleasure.
brilliant. So thank you very much indeed. And we will, yes, as I said, we will show you all the details, where you can get the book. The book is obviously available on Amazon as well as on our website, the SRA Books website.
Lovely.
And Sue, thank you very much, for writing such a great book and joining our Authority family. We're absolutely delighted to have you, and hope to see much more of you. We'll be growing the Authority Club platform, and we'll be talking to you about what else you might come and do with us. So that would be lovely to have you. Everyone, you can get hold of Sue from the information on the slides that will appear shortly. And thank you very much indeed for joining us, Sue, and thank you everybody for joining us at the Authority Club. Bye for now.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Bye now. Bye.